previously gifted kid, previously gifted and talented kid, blah, 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 previously. What do you mean previously? There's no previously. Why are you even claiming that energy? Like, there's so much, lore on the internet about this tagline of like, oh, what it was like to grow up gifted. And then all of a sudden, like, life goes downhill or you realize you're mentally ill and blah, 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 blah. Look, and I'm not undercutting the very real experience of the fact that maybe part of your giftedness disguised very real mental, struggles and disabilities that nobody noticed because you were talented or whatever, exceptional. And what do they call it? Like this whole twice exceptional phenomenon. So then because you're so gifted, no one can really believe that you might be struggling with things like ADHD or autism or whatever the case may be, until finally a different stage of life kind of hits you, which is what leads people whose diagnoses are usually ignored to suddenly emerge because their life circumstances, the rhythm of it changes, and they struggle to adapt to those changes, and suddenly something that they were disguising or living with really well becomes like debilitating. And then you have this whole thing around like, oh, previously gifted, when I used to be gifted, blah, blah, blah. And the reason I say I rebuke it is because like there's no previously. Like that kid inside of you is still there. And I remember when I got really depressed in college, and I used to think like, oh my goodness, I used to have this fire inside of me, this like insatiable fire that was a drive for everything I was interested in. I was like endlessly curious. I was like, I wouldn't even call it ambition. Like for me, it just felt like factual. Like if this is possible and I have an opportunity to like make that possible thing a reality, then I must because I have to do my best. And for me, like doing my best and like doing the best, it's not even like I'm trying to do the best. It's just like if I want to do my best and I know that there is a possibility of perfection, then that's what I'm going to go for because I want to do my best. And if my best can get me perfection, then that's what the standard I'm just going to hold myself to, right? And it didn't make sense to other people. Frankly, I didn't take much time to try and make it make sense to even myself, even though now that I'm older, I might have language for it. But I just remember I had this like fire inside of me is what I always described it as. And when I was depressed, I started to use that language. And I remember I would like, this like, don't look through the notes app of a girl who's depressed unless you want to read like the saddest shit you've ever seen in your life. Because I used to be like, oh, I'm not depressed, like blah, blah, blah. Everyone thinks this way. And then I like finally started getting help and I would like look back at my notes app and be like, oh my God, that bitch was so messed up. Like, is she okay? What's wrong with this girl? Or whatever. So anyways, though, I remember describing it as like, it felt like someone came and literally put the fire out. And I remember feeling like, will I ever be that girl again? And not even in like, will I ever be that girl? Like blah, blah, blah. Like, no, genuinely that little girl inside of me, that fire inside of me that's now been put out. And I feel like so not even lost because I still had so much clarity on what the future of my life would be like. And very, very, very deep down, I had this feeling that everything would be okay. But I also had, of course, this like massive sense of doom, right? Because I'm going through these like extremely, turbulent, depressive episodes and everything. And I just remember feeling like, I know I can like pace out what my life will be, but I don't feel anything towards it. Like when I was depressed, it didn't feel like sadness. It just felt like a complete apathy towards everything. And it was so odd because I'd always been someone like deeply grateful for my life, like totally understood like the privilege with which I was living, like the life I was living. Like I knew that like it was a 1 in a million chance for me to even live the life I did. And not because like, I don't know, I feel like I had a unique circumstance of growing up comfortable, but also growing up with parents who were not comfortable. So like my everyday life and like growing up in a good and like super connected family in the sense that like me and like my core nuclear family of like me and my siblings and my parents, like it was just the 6 of us and we would move a lot. And like we were the constant in each other's lives as like us all growing up together. And obviously, I had young parents too. And my mom would always say she felt like she was growing up alongside us. So like, I just had a very tight-knit family. We'd have dinner together every night. We'd laugh every night over dinner about like what happened that day. And I would hear stories of my parents' childhood. And be very aware of the fact that like even my cousins that my parents were supporting, all my extended family that I like didn't know very well, and like still to this day, still some of them don't know. I knew that like my parents were taking care of them, and I knew how like their life and their childhood and how they grew up was so heavily contrasted against my life that it made it so obvious, like for me, that my life was a gift. Because I know like I think people very easily get desensitized to the things that they are privileged with. And that's why people don't like conversations about privilege. Like people like to think, oh, I got it out the mud. I did it myself, blah, blah, blah. People love this idea of being like self-made this, self-made that. And it's like, no, like for me, I know I am, the sum of the parts of everyone that's around me, all of the people I've been gifted to encounter in this life, and they've left their mark on me, like good or bad, right? Like whether someone was bad to me or whatever, for me, I'm alchemizing that energy, that experience, whatever it taught me, whatever, into becoming the person I am today. And I'm grateful for that. So I don't know. I was just always super aware of my privilege. And like, it wasn't even possible for me to be desensitized and think, well, everyone lives like this. Or something that also happens is people get into this thing where they think they're middle class, which I also thought, but like you start to think like, oh, I'm middle class because there's a level, I feel like, of wealth. And I say this like just from an objective perspective, not even because it was anything crazy or that's how people would view it, but like there's a level of wealth you get to where like there's always people around you that are so much more wealthy than you. So I feel like because you're even always exposed to people that are like even ultra wealthy, right, around you, then you start to think that like you're normal, or even start to confuse yourself that maybe you're below average. Like, and I feel like I was lucky to not really worry about those things or give a shit about those things, but like it's not something that every kid like escapes. Like I remember in like some of the grade levels at the schools I went to, luckily no one I was around, like people would literally be looking up each other's homes on like Zillow, if you're in the States, right? Like looking up the cost of each other's homes and stuff like that. Like, and just like playing that, like, what is it, dick measuring game or whatever it is with their friends, I guess, quote unquote. So this comparison game where it's like, even though you have so much, you're comparing yourself to other people who have so much, until some people are deluded, because someone's going to have less, right? Some people are deluded into actually thinking they don't have much, right? Because you have less than the people around you. And really, all of you have so much more than everyone else. And I feel like something that allowed me to like not fall into that trap of deluding myself into thinking I had quote unquote less just because other people around me had more, sometimes in like crazy amounts, is simply because my day-to-day life was contrasted against my parents' life, either through the stories they would tell. And it's so funny because like the way Nigerians handle what people would consider like traumatic or whatever, it's like they're so resilient, but it's because they let everything kind of wash over them, where it's like that was just an experience that doesn't define me. So horrible things will happen to my parents, and my dad will like be joking about literally the worst things you've ever heard in your life. I will not even repeat them on this podcast. Like both my mom and my dad like would just say these things, and like it was just like, or if, I wasn't hearing it through the stories they would tell, I would see it with my own eyes, right? Because I did grow up in Nigeria for like 2 years or less than 2 years when I was a little kid. So even though like I obviously like lived nicely when I was living in Nigeria, like I had visited their hometowns and where they grew up, and they would tell stories of how like they took my brother to see where my dad grew up, and he like refused to get out of the car because he was scared, like stuff like that. So it's like, I feel like because of that, I was so aware of how privileged my existence was, knowing that, and my parents always stressing like literally the only reason they're here today is because of, God and like taking their education ultra seriously. And I was also lucky in that, they would just push us to do our best. There was nothing like, you have to be number one, you have to get this kind of grades or you're disowned and this and that. Like, frankly, like I was thinking about it this week. I was like, my parents don't ask anything of their kids. Like, I'm so, so lucky to have them, because all they ask is that you do your best. And they would say it like, if your best is an F, fine, but let us just know that you tried. You know what I mean? So I just feel like, yeah, I was just very grateful for that. But anyways, when I got to college, going back to the whole depressive episode stuff, it was so interesting because I grew up extremely grateful, was still very grateful when I was in college, was still very hyper aware of the fact that I was living in an objectively extremely privileged experience. Because you know how like people would be like, oh, you think your life is so hard, imagine like if you were X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I don't have to imagine that. Like, I already know that's why I've always been super aware of how good I have it. And even while depressed, I was aware of that. But again, it was just that apathy of like knowing that life was good and just being that layer of just non-feeling towards it. And like, of course, that was because of, you know, the clinical depression and all of those things, right? So anyways, going back to this whole like gifted or previously gifted, whatever, that made me make this episode, which I really should be getting ready because I'm about to join like a panel session, but I just had to say this. There's no previously, right? So when I was depressed, I used to think, oh my goodness, it feels like someone came and like poured light on my candle, like my fire has gone out, like there's just nothing. I just feel nothing. Like if I'm left alone, which obviously I would self-isolate. So it's so crazy too, because I was definitely one of those people that like, if I'm around other people, like I'm jolly as fuck and I'm not even faking it. So it was one of those things where like, it's easy for me to invalidate myself. And frankly, like those like stories of people being like, but they were so happy. How could they have, you know, themselves, sorry to be like graphic, but they were so happy. How could that happen? Like I was textbook, like I was textbook that. The only reason it wouldn't have surprised anyone is because I also have like a streak of shamelessness to where I didn't understand like, you know, the need to be ashamed of depression. So I was genuinely baffled at the way that it hit me like a ton of bricks. Cause again, like I grew up very like happy. I'm a very jolly person. If you know me, like my face will hurt if I'm around people for too long. I love people. Like my default expression is a smile, and usually like a big old smile. Like people are like, girl, what the hell's wrong with you? Like it's kind of crazy. So like, yeah, like, I don't know. It hit me like a ton of bricks and I was baffled. I was baffled by, by depression and mental health stuff. Like I was like, what is going on? And because I was confused, like I am also someone that's not ashamed to be confused. So I was confused out loud. Like people, I'm like, guys, why is everything, nothing matters. Like what the fuck is going on? Like this is crazy. Like I was genuinely baffled by these depressive episodes. And so of course people around me know that I'm struggling, and I would talk about it online. I would just like post on my Instagram stories, kind of speak into the void. And over time realized I wasn't speaking into the void. Like people were listening and responding, and they would talk about how like it helped them to like see someone else be so open. So I was someone that I thought there's strength in vulnerability, and I didn't feel the need to hide and be secretive or be ashamed or whatever it was. And I also felt like when you're vulnerable with people, then they're vulnerable with you. And like, you can all be empowered by your humanity, you know? So yeah, that would be the only reason why people wouldn't have been surprised if I just like randomly disappeared, because it's not like they weren't given fair warning. I was very confused by the experience, and I was very vocal about that experience. But anyways, so it felt like this light had gone out. And I remember thinking like, will it ever come back? Like, will she ever come back? Will I ever be that person again? Will I ever be happy again? Will I ever care again about what's going on? Like, you know, even with treatment, like I just had a very like tumultuous time of things. I didn't really have the right, I didn't really invite my support system in terms of like my parents had always been a huge support system for me, but I really hate the idea of stressing them out. So I just didn't make it easy for them to support me, frankly. And they just weren't aware of a lot of things. And I just remember thinking like, will I ever get back to that person? And like, it was a long journey. It took a long time. And when I finally got back, when things started like taking the turn for the better, it still didn't feel the same, you know? But I also felt like the person I used to be, you know, like naivety and like, what is it? Ignorance is bliss. That's all well and good. But I also think substantively as a human being, I'm so changed by the experience of just life, you know, and not seeing everything as literally sunshine and rainbows. Like this is a podcast, so you can't see my face, but there's this like TikTok meme of that dog that's like, like just like that white dog that's like face tilted to the side. Like when I tell you that's my mood, like all the time, like even now, and frankly, even when I was depressed, like, and I just feel like the substance of my character, how I view the world the empathy I have for people is completely changed. And I have a lot more patience. I think I talked about this in the last episode, but a lot more patience for people with a different worldview or even a poisoned worldview, like, if that makes sense. Just a lot more patience and empathy for it. And I'm grateful for it. But again, also, the previously gifted child, like, rebel against the idea that it's previous, rebel against the idea that your gifts are hidden in the past or lost to the past. They're not. They're not. Your gifts are not lost to the past. You are still there. That version of you is still there. They're still inside of you. They're still, frankly, like, fighting to, like, see the world again, fighting to, like, be held and cared about and encouraged, and they're fighting to shine again, and they will. And when they do start to shine again, you will outpace yourself. Like you will be even better than they were, because they were a kid, you know. At the end of the day, they were a kid. Like, yeah, like, you can be a gifted kid, but imagine a gifted adult that's, like, really in their element, that's resilient because of what they've seen, that's resilient because they've learned how to maybe not get everything the easy way. Not to say that everything was easy for you when you were a gifted kid, because that's not what I'm saying either. And that's not what I'm saying was, you know, even the case for me, but you will be amazed. So I just remember that was my biggest question, was like, will she ever come back? Will the fire ever be lit again? Or is it just lost? And whenever I think of the idea of, like, the previously gifted kid, that's what I also think about. Like, they're still there. They're still just as capable. And frankly, they're just waiting for a chance. And even if it means that for years, you don't feel as effective as you used to be, you don't feel like you're sailing the way you used to be, like, fine, but you'll be soaring soon, right? Like, the things you're learning, the way you're tinkering your machine because of you're testing it. Like, now you're tried and tested, and the way you'll fly after that will be so much more powerful, right? Like, almost like when you have, like, if you put a ball in, like, a slingshot, like, if you put the ball and you just had the ball rolling on a counter, fine, it's unobstructed. Maybe there's some friction from the wind, there's some friction from the table it's on, whatever. I'm, like, really pulling into physics. I really miss physics. Physics is fun. But anyways, right, there's a ball on the counter, can roll in any direction, whatever, it's free, it's uninhibited. But imagine you take that same ball, the ball is you, and you imagine if you take that same ball and you put it inside a slingshot and you hold it in the slingshot, right? Now, the hand of God, that's what I like to call it. I think I've called it that in a different podcast episode, whatever, the hand of the universe, you, the depression, whatever is making you have to be resilient, whatever is making you feel like you're a previously gifted kid, whatever is making you feel like you're lost to the past, you're still there. You're still the ball. You're still that bitch. Like, you're still there, right? Someone puts you in the slingshot and pulls you backwards. So before you were on the table, you had free agency. Maybe there was, by some miracle, right, either a wind behind you or something in the ball itself that allowed it to roll, whatever it was, right? But now you are put in a slingshot, you're given direction, you're being held back. And again, when you're being held back, it sucks because it feels like I'm going nowhere, I have all this energy, I want to go somewhere, I'm struggling so much, I feel lost, I feel like I'm being stalled, I feel like there's nothing left for me, I feel like I'll never escape this thing, I feel like someone's put the fire out, I feel like that little girl is gone, I feel like it's, again, lost files. Like, I'm not the person that I was, and I'll never be that person again. And you won't, but it's for the better because you're in the slingshot and you're being pulled back. Because if you were in the slingshot and you're just being held there loosely, whatever, they let go, you drop right back down to where you were. You don't go anywhere. But when they pull you back in that slingshot, what is it, David and Goliath, and it, like, defeated the giant or whatever? Like, you're being pulled all the way back. And when they release you, you will soar. And you'll be grateful for the ways that you were made more resilient. And I feel like sometimes there's this idea of toxic positivity that people want to reject. But I also think, or this idea that, like, love your scars, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it feels like this very empty request put upon people that's difficult to listen to or accept, especially if that's coming from advice from people that you feel like don't really get it. And especially if it's like depression, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that are misconstrued about the experience of depression or whatever it is, or that kind of like mental struggle, right? But take it from someone who's been there and didn't feel like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, didn't meet anyone that ever made it through the tunnel. And like, even now, hear so many stories of people that never make it through the tunnel. Like, someone that's on the other side, that's outside of the freaking tunnel, and it's sunshine and daisies, and we're in the park, and it's fun, and like, I've crawled through the like wood log or whatever it's called, and there were spiders, and it was scary, and it was dark, and all of this stuff, and there was no one to like promise me there was something even there, and I'm out. It's there. And when you kind of embrace, even without understanding, if all you take from this message is like, whatever I'm going through right now, and it doesn't have to be depression, whatever I'm going through right now is me being pulled back in my slingshot. And I'm going to look around. I'm stalled, right? I'm not going anywhere. Something's holding me here. Fine. I'm going to look around. I'm going to figure out what I'm supposed to learn. I'm going to try to see, like, imagine there's eyes on the ball. Keep your eyes on the ball. I'm going to look around. I'm going to try and see, like, where am I going? What does someone have to, like, what's in store for me? Like, what do I have to learn from the place that I'm stuck in? What do I have to learn from being the duck that's like paddling so heavily to keep itself afloat but doesn't seem to be going anywhere? What do I have to learn from this? Because it will serve you when you're released. And when you do take off, it's so insane, your trajectory. Like, it's genuinely so insane. And I just cannot stress this enough. I literally cannot stress this enough. And I feel like you can look back and feel like, oh, those years were wasted, or I could have done better, or whatever it was. First of all, you're still here. You have another day to fight. And that was your principal goal, is you still woke up today. You woke up this morning. Maybe you're still in bed. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you'll get out of bed, whatever it is. Maybe you don't brush your teeth in a while. Maybe you're whatever it is, right? But you're still here to fight another day. If that's all you achieve, cool. Pat yourself on the back. Like, give yourself a little credit, because one day that's not going to be all that you get done today. That's not going to be all you could do today, because no one will be holding you stuck in that slingshot. You would have looked around, figured it out, crawled your way out of where you are now, and the crawling would make you resilient until you never had to crawl again, and you are flying. And the thing propelling you is exactly the resilience you've learned right now. So, previously gifted kid, lose it. You're still gifted. You'll always be gifted. You are a gift. You're a gift from God, from the universe, for yourself. You're a gift from all the people praying for you, all the people that wanted you to be here. Or even if, like, for whatever, you're an accident or this or that, right? The complications around the existence of even, existing, right? Not every birth is wanted or whatever, quote unquote, by the person giving birth. That's fine. But you're an answer to something. You're an answer to something. Think of all of, even people you don't know, your ancestors and all of that stuff, people that maybe had a life completely different to yours, that are just like willing and wishing for better for their kids, better for the next generation. And now there's you, and you're going to be the answer to all of that. Someone is rooting for you. Someone is rooting for you. People are rooting for you. And if you don't believe me, I'm rooting for you. So there's so much you're going to see. And this is what's making you powerful. And when you believe this, when you believe that even the worst of things make you better, even the worst day prepares you for your best day, you are teaching yourself to alchemize, like teaching yourself to transform any kind of energy brought your way. Anyone talking shit is a gift. Anyone giving you criticism is a gift. Anyone hating on you is a gift. Anyone holding you back is a gift. Anyone that fucked you over, quote unquote, is a gift. Fine, cool, they fucked me over. Now I'm in this new place. What am I going to learn? Oh, they felt like they held me down. This is what's going to come out of it. Everything is a gift. When you genuinely believe that, it is. Everything is a gift. And what does it, Bashar say or whatever? Now you spend the rest of your day opening up presents or whatever. That was kind of corny, but like it really does work that way. So anyways, I love you guys. I have like 3 seconds to get ready for this thing I'm doing, and I look very much unprepared. So I love you guys. You'll be gifted forever. And do you want to know what inspired this episode, funnily enough, is every now and then I have to remind myself I still know how to read, because I grew up like obsessed with books. Like I used to read while doing everything. I brought a book with me everywhere. I finished a book like every couple days, like as a kid. And then I think probably after the age of maybe like 12 or something, I discovered television and like didn't read as like voraciously. And then every now and then I go through a phase where I remember that I like to read and I know how to like pay attention. And I'm always really happy about that. And so I'm going through one of those phases. I just read this book. Oh my goodness, isn't it crazy? I just read it and I've already forgotten what it's called. It's this book by Kurt Vonnegut. It's like a sci-fi type of book. It was really cool though. And now I'm on the like James Hardley Chase book. So here's the book. I read The Sirens of Titan. Anyways, and I was thinking about how, you know, I feel like the classic previously gifted kid example is like, oh, I used to read so much, I don't read anymore. You're still gifted. Pick up the damn book. Lock your phone in a case somewhere. Pick up the damn book. Go outside, lay your towel on some grass and read, and you'll enjoy yourself. And at first it'll be slow, and then you'll remember like, oh my God, books are kind of a slow burn, but they're fire. They're so fire. And yeah, it's fun and affirming. So that's what made me think of making this whole episode. And it's funny, I didn't even mention it till now. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for thinking out loud with me. I love you so much. My name is Obie. Follow the podcast here at LUMANI and send it to a friend who thinks they were previously gifted and is really the most talented person you've ever met and will always be. Okay? Love you. Bye.